Hello, friends, and thanks for being here for episode number 50. Can you believe we've done 50 of these things, guys?
Hell no.
I guess I can believe that we've done 50. I can't believe anybody's listened to 50.
Fair enough.
We need that. We can give a shout out. I'll give a free sleeve of balls to somebody that comments in that's seen all 50 episodes.
Deal.
You
Okay.
have to quote a line from every 50.
Okay, deal. I like
Each
this.
one,
Do you
yeah,
want,
one.
do you want
Your
3 golf balls?
We've got a great topic today. How often should you replace your wedges? Yes, there is an answer. So let's get it.
No Putts Given is powered by MyGolfSpy, the most extensive reviews in golf. Before you buy, MyGolfSpy. 9 million readers do it every year. Check us out.
Okay, guys, we've got Tony, Harry, and Chris here. Everybody say hi.
Hola.
Hi.
Hola.
And as always, we ask that you do like, subscribe, leave us a review, tell us what you think. We want to know. Guys, anything new, interesting, good today that we need to know about?
Not today. I'm gonna go have a golf lesson tomorrow. It'll be my first
What?
one. Yeah.
With the same guy you were working with before?
With Anders Matson. Yeah. It's the elbow after 8 weeks of treatment with
I knew we'd get an update.
with my
Stay
stay active.
active.
Yeah, so now I'm in the recovery period. The elbow feels not 100%, but it feels way better than it did, so I can kind
Well,
of
did
get
it
back.
promise 100%?
I don't know what the promise was. It was just like, hey, we've seen good results with this. We'll send you one if you want to try it. And
Okay.
so yeah, so I'm 8 weeks in, 2-week recovery period, and we'll know more. But I'm swinging a club, swinging hard. And,
Nice violent transition.
yeah, no,
Oh, shit. You have the best one-liners. It's great.
I am swinging with malice of intent for sure.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
I'm still using the unflavored, and it still is remarkably bland.
I just can't wrap my head around it, how something can be unflavored. It has to taste like something. Like,
Yeah, it does. Nothing.
but nothing, again, it's the same concept as thinking of nothing. If you're thinking of nothing, you are thinking of nothing. You're still thinking of something.
You're
So if
thinking
you're-
of a blank space is still blank space.
I think if you ask your husband if he thinks about anything,
Okay, no,
No.
we've had this conversation before. Apparently there are two classes of people. Some people have a running dialogue through their brain at all times. Me. And some people, apparently, I still am very skeptical, can think of actually nothing, and Harry claims to be one
Yeah.
of those people. That he can absolutely turn his brain off,
Quiet
and there
the
is
noise.
no... Yes, there is no,
Yeah.
like, airplane flying over with any banners. There's no...
well, there might be. I just don't pay attention. I'm just like,
But how?
I'm just like.
Are you saying
whatever.
that Harry has like an absence of space in between his ears?
That's what
Is
he's
this
trying to
you're
say.
Suggesting?
I mean, everyone knew that.
As many times as I'm like, that's impossible, he is adamant about it.
Harry, do you ever not sleep at night?
I didn't last night.
Really? Because that's usually my thing. Is like I can't quiet the noise.
Yes.
I'm the same way. This is how we stumbled upon this conversation. I like to fall asleep with the TV on because that helps. Harry hates it because he wants his blank space.
Yeah.
You know what really helps with that? CBD. It actually does. Like,
That was a great transition.
Anywho, so wedges.
is that what we're talking about today?
Let's just start super basic. Why do wedges have grooves? Because ultimately that's why you end up replacing them, right? These things wear down. So what's the point of the grooves in the wedges?
The point of a groove in a wedge is, I guess the simple explanation or the best explanation is to channel moisture, debris, grass, anything that gets between the club face and the golf ball out of the way so that you are able to make crisp contact and impart spin on the golf ball.
Yep.
I
It's
like
the
that.
tire tread, right? Tire tread.
There you go.
So same reason your tires have tread, right? Is, when you're driving, contact between the tire and the ground is a good thing, right? That gives you control, traction, stability, and all the channels. The job is to move water, debris, etc., to channel all that away so that you can maintain traction between the tire and the ground. Grooves in a golf club and a wedge specifically work in a basic sense the same way.
Tony, you might remember we did a wet wedge test, right?
Sure.
So how much did the grooves of the wedges impact the water that was on? Was the water on the wedge or the ball or the grass, or how did that work?
Both.
Oh, it was everything.
Yeah, we decided to kind of go all in and create the kind of simulate extreme moisture, if you will. So Harry saturated the turf. We put water on the club face, and we put some water on the ball as well. So it's probably the extreme representation.
It was an interesting one because I was thinking, all right, so if the ball's wet, let's see what a ball's wet and see the spin rates off that.
That's right. This one was your brainchild, right?
It was a aha moment.
Okay.
If the water is on the ball, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be on the ground.
Had to come from somewhere, right?
Exactly. So you're like, all right. So then you do ground and ball wet, and then a dry face. And then if you're like a lazy golfer like me, you do wet ground, wet ball, wet face. And then you see a diminishing returns in spin with adding each variable, if that makes sense. Now, there are clubs out there that do have that hydrophobicity
Good job.
finish. Did I get it right?
There you go. That was a
very
good
good.
word.
That's the
Hell
thing.
yeah.
Hydrophobe. Yeah,
10
buddy.
points.
Don't
Woo!
tell me how to spell it, but that's how you say it. And it's like the tire tracks on a car. It runs up the face and down the face. It doesn't stick to the face. It just goes up with the movement of the club. So there was wedges out there that perform better, and I guarantee in about 2 years we'll see a lot of wedges that will come out with all this hydrophobicity coating on it.
Yeah, I want to say, don't hold me to these numbers. Go back to the wedge test and check it out. Matt will throw in a link for you, I'm sure. But I want to say that the best wedges when wet, and this was what I think like a 65-yard shot, Harry, 55, 65.
So we did all three. We did, I think it was 60 and your full shot.
Okay, so
I believe.
I want to say that the best wedges in our saturated environment retained about 90% of their spin. Whereas on average, it was a reduction of pretty close to 40 to 50% fall off once the wedge was a little bit wet. And I was seeing some that you would spin your driver more. Yeah, there were some extreme drop-offs,
which is scary.
And if you look at what performed really well, the Ping Glide 2.0, and Ping has been talking about their hydrophobic or hydropearl chrome.
Hydropearl finish, yeah.
Right, which is designed to basically, if you look, the wind, if you want to go back to some of the windshield analogies and the stuff people spray on that, the idea that water will bead on a golf club, and when you spray this magic stuff on it, like it does on your windshield, it will run off instead of bead. And that's the whole idea behind Ping's finish, is that the water doesn't bead and stay on the club face, it runs off. Similar lines, Mizuno with their HydroFlow micro grooves are designed to be, they use the tire tread analogy, designed to channel water and debris off of the club face. And both of those, the Ping wedges were tops for retaining spin when wet. Mizuno was pretty close as well. They were up there as well. And so what you're seeing is, I think, some pretty clear evidence that you can resolve a moisture problem. First, that moisture definitely has an impact on not just spin, but launch as well. Those two are generally pretty tightly correlated. And that you can mitigate that with various technologies. So I think you're right. Okay. I think this is kind of where it's headed.
Yeah.
The reason I asked, we got into a rabbit hole full of good information. However, I asked, I wanted to know that if the grooves on your wedges were wearing, how then would water also affect it? Are we doubling down on the extra components?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, no different than a tire in that regard, or with ping, it's a finish, right? So if that finish has a lifespan, right? Things wear out. Nothing. Clubs aren't intended to last forever, and we'll get into what really impacts some of these finishes in the grooves themselves. But just like tire tread, as it wears down, it's less effective, right? It's not as deep, and particularly with golf clubs, it's not just the depth of the groove, but it's the radius, right? So if you kind of take like a side profile, and if you kind of see it as like a U, right, in the top radius, where it actually curves down into the groove, as that becomes more blunted or more rounded, it's going to have less of an ability to channel all the dirt, debris, water, etc. out of the way. So as that wears down, it's going to become less effective at what it's intended to do.
Even in dry conditions, when that edge radii kind of loses its spec, so to speak, and goes from being sharp, if you will, to more rounded, it loses its ability to kind of grip at the ball and impact. And so what invariably happens is the ball starts to slide up the face a little bit more. And so you do tend to get kind of that higher launching, often lower spinning condition.
And the USGA has rules right around how deep these grooves can be and wide, and what that radius number can be, basically how sharp that angle can be. But that's kind of what we're talking about.
That's the tough part, is there's finishes, right, that sandblast. When they sandblast it, some companies sandblast it and the grooves start to wear out before you even get to hit them. So that's another variable that you don't know that you have, even that you haven't even hit the brand new groove. So think of it like when you're in a bunker. The more sand you hit, and the more rough and surface area you're going to wear on your face. So the sandblasting on the wedges faces itself before it even gets to you in your hands.
Well, let's talk about this really quickly. What can cause a wedge groove to wear? Like, how do we get from point A to point needing to replace?
Hitting golf balls.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, I mean, let's just keep it, super simple. Like, one thing is sand. If you've ever been in a sandstorm, I don't know how many people have, but I have, and you get that, and it can just shred you. It can really hurt, right? And it's like this forced exfoliation, right? So if you're hitting balls on a sandy range, or you're hitting balls in a bunker, it's like all these little just micro pieces, right, that are just chipping away at that finish. I mean, incrementally, right? I mean, these are very small. You're not noticing it from one shot to the next, but it's happening in little bits and pieces over time. So think about what are any things that could take this nice sharp edge and reduce it and make it a little bit more blunted, right? Sand, hitting hard golf balls. So golf balls that are
range balls.
Which I was going to say, how many people have that at their range, and we can get into why, obviously why driving ranges don't have nice soft urethane golf balls, but yeah, so hitting range balls, that will do it, and then just playing, right? I mean, again, they wear down over time, and so and if your wedge starts out raw, people want to talk about plated wedges versus wedges with finishes, raw wedges. Well, raw wedges will wear a little bit quicker than plated wedges.
Okay, so we've gotten to the point where we've gotten ourselves out of bunkers, we played a number of rounds, and maybe gotten caught in a random dust and sandstorm. So our wedges, we were playing at the beach and it's a windy day. So our wedges are worn. What sort of performance differences are we seeing? I know we've got some data on this.
I mean, you just translate it to stopping distance. Is how you really determine that. I mean, Titleist did a fantastic demonstration and a study on this. I think you can go on their Vokey website and look at it. They got a 100-yard green that's perfectly flat at Manchester Lane, correct?
Oh, it's a work of art.
It's apparently amazing. Tony's been there, and they hit at distances, and then a brand new grooves, a 75 rounds and 100 rounds of wear, and the stopping distance is actually kind of, scary in a way.
Spin drops off, which ultimately leads to more rollout. And
Yeah.
well, I think Titleist uses, what's their recommendation, is like every 75 rounds or something like that. But it's
75,
yeah, it's important to understand that the conditions play a major role. So my course is super duper sandy. Like every swing is a sandstorm in some cases. Well as others,
Forced
right?
exfoliation.
Others,
you.
but if you have
Thank
sort
you.
of like just nice kind of fluffy soil and soft grass that you're not digging into, right? If you don't
Right.
take a divot, for example, you're not going to wear your wedges out quite as quickly. So I think 75 rounds might be a decent guideline, but it's certainly not one of those everybody needs to replace their wedges every 75 rounds or you suck at golf.
75 rounds doesn't seem that long.
Well, no, but when it comes to spin rates, a brand new set of wedges to worn wedges, it's like 2,000 revs. It's
more.
a lot of revs or more.
Okay,
So,
can we translate this into score for me instead of spin rate or distance?
it's-
well,
it's
what
tough.
sort of strokes are we talking about?
So here's the thing: if you got a brand new wedge and you're pitching it at the same distance, say you pitch at 100 yards and it rolls out to say, I think it was 24 foot, right?
I think the new one was like 10 feet.
Yeah, so new one for 10 feet and then old one was like 24 feet, I think it was.
You said this was going to be easy.
Yeah, and now you equate that to strokes gained and how many putts are made from those distances. You are now creating, all right, it's probably you're going to make more at 10 feet than you will at 24.
Right. Yeah, if I'm 24 feet further away, and
Correct.
we assume that that's not optimal, right? That's not getting me closer to it or whatever. Sure, we can absolutely look at that. I think the other thing to consider too is, Titleist says, okay, 75 rounds is a time to kind of start looking at it. Like that's kind of the first time you might start noticing some performance differences. And in their testing, I think it was 1 degree higher launch and a little bit less spin. And I think it equated to maybe like another 8 yards of roll, or 8 feet. Maybe it went from like 10 to 18 to 24. And that 24 foot number was like 125 rounds. And so, there's a number of people that I know play 125 rounds of golf.
That's a lifetime.
If they play 5 to 10 times a year, so you're saying, hey, replace your wedges every 3 presidential administrations or so, that's definitely possible, right? I mean, on the other hand, you have people like Harry that are going to play maybe, 75 to 100, 125 rounds a year. And the other piece being how much spin degradation can you handle before it starts impacting your game, right?
Well, that's
Okay.
the thing. So in Harry's strokes gained analogy, right? If you just look at it and say, oh, I went from being 10 feet from the hole to 25 feet of the hole. Yeah, that's obviously going to have an impact on your score, but it also doesn't happen all at once, right? It's a gradual, you don't get there overnight. And chances are, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, you're going to make some adjustments on course. You're going to notice, right? Hey, you may think, you may not necessarily kind of attribute it to your wedges. You may sort of, there's just this broad observation that, hey, I'm rolling past more pins, so I need to account for that kind of thing. So I think you will make some adjustments, but ideally you don't want to have to change your game because your equipment is worn.
Well, Harry, let me ask you this. You play all the time. Are you replacing your wedges twice a year?
I would love to. Yeah. No, but again, it comes into cost and factor and blah, blah, blah. So I would love, if it was me and if I was practicing every day and I was practicing my short game, I want to change my wedges out maybe every 2 to 3 months, depending on how much practice I'm doing. So if I'm really need to work on my short game, guess what? I'm going to be using those wedges more. So therefore, it kind of equates into rounds. And that 75 rounds might be 40 rounds because of the amount of practice I am doing. So if I had it my way and I could do it every 2 to 3 months, I mean, Jordan Spieth, I think he replaces 60 every 2 or 3
weeks.
rounds.
Every couple, yeah.
Yeah, and his other wedges every 2 to 3 months, I think it is. So he heavily practices on a short game. So it's really on to you of how much you're going to wear down the wedges.
I think it is fair to say though that if you play a lot of golf, 50 plus rounds a year, somewhere in that ballpark.
That's good. Say you play once a weekend, that's 52.
Yeah, so ballpark that. You should certainly be replacing your wedges more often than any other club in the bag.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what about wedge regroovers? Do they work? Can it get you back to a fresh wedge performance?
Lab test.
I've never tried it, and it's one of those things where, and obviously nobody's going to check the average golfer's bag, but
exactly now you're going into illegal clubs and then non-conforming.
There is a potential conformity issue there, but again,
I'm certainly hoping so. I'm hoping they can make them non-conforming.
As far as I know, I've yet to play in a tournament where they've had a groove spec machine handy just in case something looked a little screwy. But
right,
you're gonna bring one. You'll be the first one. You'll have it with you. Tony's groove.
Bryson DeChambeau will come up with a zone and then just subject it to.
I'm gonna get a groove scanner. I'll show up with my USGA spec golf ball size gauge. I'll show up with my scale, and if anything is off,
I think we should have a poll. I'd like to have a poll out there. We can put out there, the average golfer, how often are they replacing? They're not. This is probably a lot of new information. So I'd like to see with average golfers when they do replace wedges currently, like option one, when your current wedge didn't float, are people actually replacing them, or are they just, I'll replace it once it got lost in the woods and it got whirly-birded. And
you're seeing this in not just wedges.
Yeah, my wedges have never floated. They always seem to sink.
In the lake?
In any body of water. The hydrophobicity did not help there. At all. Not even a little.
It shed all the water on the way to the dirt at the bottom. It's a tough one. If guys are fond of a wedge, it's one of those clubs that I think people become attached to. One of the guys I play with from time to time has Ping ISOL copper wedges in the bag, and I'm like Johnny, what the hell are you doing? These things are 100 years old. I mean, you're probably getting at best triple digit spin on any shot, maybe double digit. And why are you still playing these? And he's like, I can't buy them anymore.
I just love this wedge.
Well, okay, but...
So is that a case where we would advocate for wedge regroovers? Because this guy is obviously an everyday kind of golfer, and he loves his club, and he wants to get it back.
Or just get over it and buy a wedge that's good.
Sometimes you just gotta let go.
Put it on the wall.
I think you'd get the guy at your course that everybody knows is just a huge asshole to pick up his club, chuck it in the river, whatever. Then he's left without choices. Got to buy them.
Kind of like forced exfoliation.
Yes. And Tony may be that guy at his club. He may be the one that takes it and chucks it for him.
Harry, you would regroove that one if that were the case?
No, I'm saying what if you regroove stuff, you have to regroove your irons in a way, because if you 9 times out of 10, if your wedges are very that strike pattern that you see, that is just completely
out on the
ball
toe
related.
Oh.
Yeah, which is mine, on the toe. But you see you see that pattern, and I see irons on eBay or whatever, they have a strike pattern, and it's all that time that it's just been hit in that same area. It's the same concept in irons and it is wedges as well. If you're consistently hitting that, your less spin's going to come out of your 7-iron, for instance. It's going to, instead of 6,000, it's going to be 5,000 or whatever.
Typically, I mean, it's a different groove spec. It kind of just works a little bit differently. It's not that same kind of trajectory.
Not if they concave and is a little.
Oh, you do say? Oh, yeah. I mean, I've definitely.
That's what I mean. So it has a bit of a dent in it.
You see that, and you can actually see in the groove pattern where it's been hit.
It's concave.
Right. That's what I mean.
Where it's been hit so much, it's the edge of the groove and the impact pattern has kind of squeezed together.
That's exactly what I am saying.
Let it go.
Let it go and go buy some new sets.
Let it go, man. It gets to a point, another car analogy, you can machine your rotors sometimes if you got to get, brake work. Maybe machine them once, if it's in there to extend the life a little bit. But it gets to a point of diminishing marginal utility. And like Tony said, it's like when you, drop your keys into a river of molten lava, let them go, man. they're gone.
What do you do on your weekends?
Yeah, like how'd you come up with these analogies?
That's from Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
It is.
So he's just a vault of collected information.
So Harry, whereas you have nothing stored in here, apparently, according to your wife, I have a lot of useless information stored.
Not
in here.
according to me. This is according to everybody. Harry.
Well, I'm just, I don't want to create like a marital dispute or anything, but that's just what I heard.
It's too late.
All right, so shall we check on what's coming out of the studio this week, fellas?
Sure.
Do it.
Cool. Let's take a look at this year's top 5 players' distance irons. Number 1, the Wilson D7 Forged. Testers praised this one for feel, and it performed exceptionally well in all 3 iron categories and was the best performing short iron. The runner-up, Hanma's T-World X. This one is the most forgiving player's distance iron. It's a great choice if you're looking for more spin, but not the best if you're hoping for more distance. In third, the Cobra King Forged Tech. Now this is where you should be if you're looking for distance. It ranked first in distance and testers loved the feel, but didn't enjoy the thicker top line. Fourth place goes to the Ping 500. A tester favorite in the looks department, the Ping ranked second in short iron performance and did well in long iron performance. It wasn't a tester favorite for feel though. Last but not least, the Cobra King Forged Tech 1 rounds out the top 5. It was a top finisher in distance and one of the test's strongest performing mid-irons, though it's not ideal for lower spinning wedge players. Okay, so sounds like the answer to our question is somewhere around 75 rounds you're supposed to replace your wedges, and time-wise, whatever that means for you. You start thinking about it. Okay, time-wise, that's whatever that means based on how often you play. So
And practice.
And practice. Yes, that counts too.
And throw.
Well, thank you guys. I thought that was a good discussion. Something I want to see in the comments. If you are capable of turning your brain off to the point that you can think of nothing, I want to know about it.
And if you've listened to all 50 episodes, I have 3 brand new golf balls for you.
There you go.
I'm willing to send you.
All right. We out.
3 golf balls.
3 brand new golf balls.